Chika Okeke Agulu is an artist and professor of African art and African diaspora art at Princeton University in the United States. He's here in Berlin speaking at a symposium on the legacy of colonialism at the Goethe Institute. Welcome to DW. Is this an important decision from France? Have African countries been looking for this for some time?
Well, it's an acknowledgement of demands that have been made for a long time by African states, African scholars, African activists who have been for a long time calling for the restitution of these important cultural properties and materials and objects that were stolen, that were expropriated by Europe during the Age of Empire.
Yeah, expropriated is a nice long word for just stolen. I'm intrigued by the answers that they got, if answers they did, in fact, get. When they said, so, all that stuff that you just took while you were plundering our country, will you please give it back? What sorts of answers were they getting back from that?
Well, there have been all kinds of answers that, were given for these demands. At some point, there were these sort of convenient arguments about the fact that many of these objects ended up in these so-called universal museums that had the mandate to curate world cultures, and therefore natural homes for these objects, regardless of how they came to the West. Now, this sounded like a great argument 10 years ago, but now we're at a place where such arguments are indefensible.
And when they say that, well, frankly, these African countries don't have the facilities to properly look after and display these artefacts, what do you say to that?
There's the classic response of a thief, of a BMW, since we're in Berlin, demanding that the owner of the car has to build a new facility for it, otherwise he won't return the stolen object. So,
just stop your nonsense, OK? And I know you're from Nigeria. Have countries like Nigeria, have they been tracking who took these things and where these objects are now?
That's a much more complicated process, but there are objects that we know where they are, who took them, how they took them, and the fact that they have not returned them. And the classic case is the one about Royal Benin objects, Benin bronzes that were looted by British soldiers in 1897. And these objects were meticulously documented by the British, and we know when they auctioned them off a year later, and we know where these things reside in the present day. So there are no questions about certain of these objects that we know who took them, and we're asking for them to be returned.
It's ironic that theft was so meticulously recorded.
Well, that's the work of empire.
So, do you think, then, now that this has started in France, do you think that this is likely to snowball? Do you think there are other countries, other former colonial powers who are now looking at their museums and thinking, well, someone's going to come knocking?
Well, that's their problem. The point is that there's no going back. The point is that a precedent has been set by the leader of a Western nation. And so the question now is, what is the British government going to say? What is their position? What is the American? What is the German? What is the Danish? They will now have to decide where they sit on this question, to return or not to return, and we need to know their position going forward. So the pressure is on them.
Good talking to you. Thank you for joining us, Professor Chika Okeke Agulu from Princeton University. Thank you.
Thank you so much.